Pikachu?
Oh, jeez.
Hey, little guy. How did you get in here?
I know you can't understand me, but put down the stapler or I will electrocute you.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of RT Essentials. I'm Mark Ellis. Here's the deal. People love video games and people love movies. And studios love adapting video games into movies, although for some reason critics generally don't love video game movies, but they are a hit with the audiences. Well, some of them. Of the dozens and dozens of video game movies, only a handful have ever made it into fresh territory on the Tomatometer. But with video games more popular than ever and plenty of film adaptations in the pipeline at multiple studios, the trend ain't going anywhere. So let's hit up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, start on our controllers. I think that gets us 30 lives in Contra, as I bring you the list of the highest rated video game movies ever by Tomatometer. And we're doing it in ascending order from lowest to highest. I think I did that code right. Hit the start button. Final Fantasy, The Spirits Within.
Ryan, Neil, let's go! Just what the hell do you think you're doing?
There's a life form in here.
There hasn't been life here in years.
Well, there is now.
Life form or not, I'm taking you in.
Fine, arrest me. But I'm not leaving without that life form.
It's gonna be one of those days.
The first film on this list of the highest rated video game movies is at a rotten 44%. You heard that right. Like I said, the critics just not fans all that much. This is Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. The 2006 action-adventure film is the only directorial credit for Hironobu Sakaguchi, the creator of the Final Fantasy franchise, a franchise that hit North America in 1990 on the good old original Nintendo. The Spirits Within is the first ever computer-generated animated film with photorealistic characters, blurring the lines with reality and computer animation. And it tells the story of Earth pitted up against mysterious alien phantoms that take the energy from all living things on the planet. So a scientist makes one last stand on Earth with the help of some ragtag soldiers to fight off the invasion. The movie features the voices of Ming-Na Wen, Alec Baldwin, Donald Sutherland, James Woods, Ving Rhames, Perry Gilpin, and Steve Buscemi. And with the aforementioned photorealism, post-production took 4 years with roughly 200 people doing a combined 120 years of work. All while using some of the most advanced processing capabilities of the time. That's a big whoa. So not surprisingly, it became the most expensive video game-inspired movie ever produced until the release of Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time in 2010. I guess records are meant to be broken.
Don't leave me, Gray.
You've been trying to tell me that death isn't the end. Don't back out on me. Now that I finally believe.
After exceeding its original budget and ending with a final cost of $137 million, the film grossed just $85 million at the box office, which was kind of a bummer for Columbia Pictures since it was their first animated feature since the Care Bears movie 2, A New Generation, back in 1986. Did you know that? Sure, we all did. The bright side for the people who spent 4 years in post is that the impressive visuals were not the issue for the critics, with a consensus that Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within raises the bar for computer animated movies, but the story is dull and emotionally removed, just like my personal life. Mortal Kombat 1995.
Flawless victory.
Come to a little tournament, he said. Be good for the career, he said. Yeah, right.
If the Final Fantasy franchise didn't transport you back to your childhood, maybe this next movie will. It's 95's classic Mortal Kombat. Directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, best known as the creative voice behind the Resident Evil film series, this movie follows Lord Raiden, played by Christopher Lambert, who handpicks 3 martial artists to mentor. That includes Federal Agent Sonya Blade, played by Bridget Wilson, Shaolin monk Liu Kang, played by Robin Shou, and action movie sensation Johnny Cage, played by Lyndon Ashby. After some intense training, Raiden transports the trio to an interdimensional fighting tournament to take on the demonic warriors of the evil Shang Tsung, who is threatening to take over the Earth. The film's story was primarily adapted from the original 1992 video game, but it also pulls elements from Mortal Kombat 2, which came out the following year. Toasty. And the cast could have looked much different, with Cameron Diaz originally cast as Sonya Blade, but dropping out due to injury. Plus, Sean Connery was offered the role of Lord Raiden but turned it down, and Jean-Claude Van Damme was offered Johnny Cage. Oh, that would have been awesome. He opted to make Street Fighter instead. The film ultimately grossed $122 million worldwide on a $20 million budget, plus the soundtrack went platinum, and it spawned a sequel. Not a good one. Mortal Kombat Annihilation in 1997, which is clocking in at 4% on the Tomatometer, deservedly so. There's also been an animated sequel series, a live-action prequel series, a couple of animated spin-off films starring Joel McHale, and a full-on live-action reboot in 2021, which we might get to later on this list.
Flawless victory.
But this original couldn't quite please the critics, like the Financial Times' Nigel Andrews, who said it is too violent for children and too silly for anyone else. Add an overall critics' consensus that says, despite an effective otherworldly atmosphere and appropriately cheesy visuals, Mortal Kombat suffers from its poorly constructed plot, laughable dialogue, and subpar acting. Not for me, still the greatest video game movie, in my opinion. Monster Hunter.
Oh my god!
Next up on our list, which I swear we're gonna get fresh later on, I promise, is 2020's Monster Hunter. This one was written, directed, and produced by Paul W.S. Anderson. Yeah, the Mortal Kombat guy. And based on the fantasy-themed role-playing video game from Capcom that first graced our PlayStation 2s back in 2004. The film follows Artemis, played by Mila Jovovich, who's transported to a new world along with her loyal soldiers, and ending up in a desperate battle for survival against enormous monsters with incredible power. And to counter the terrifying attacks, she teams up with a mysterious hunter who has found a way to fight back. This is the 5th time that Jovovich has worked with director Anderson, who happens to be her husband, and the rest of the cast includes stars like Megan Good, Diego Boneta, Ron Perlman, and rapper-actor and now comedian T.I. Anderson has said that parts of the film were based on a crossover event in the game Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker in 2010, where a military squad briefly faced monsters from the Monster Hunter series. And some additional characters in the movie are based on the more recent game Monster Hunter World. Hitting theaters in December of 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic, the film grossed just over $44 million worldwide against a budget of $60 million. Although both Anderson and Jovovich have expressed interest in doing a sequel at some point in the future. But sitting at a rotten 45%, this first installment did not fare well with critics, with a consensus that says Monster Hunter is mostly a mindless blur of action held together by the slenderest threads of dialogue and plot, and exactly what many viewers will be looking for. Rampage. Incoming! If you're looking for the right inspiration to climb up the side of a building and destroy it, this next movie is for you, 2018's Rampage. The film was directed by Brad Payton and marks his 3rd collaboration with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson after Journey to the Mysterious Island and San Andreas. In this one, Johnson stars as primatologist Davis Okoye, who shares an unshakable bond with the very smart silverback gorilla George, which has been in his care since birth. But when a rogue genetic experiment goes wrong, they always seem to, George grows to a monstrous size, along with a wolf and a reptile, and they begin a path of destruction. So Davis teams up with a discredited genetic engineer and the military to try to prevent a global disaster. Rampage is Johnson's second video game movie after 2005's Doom, and also stars Naomi Harris, Malin Akerman, Jack Quaid, Jake Lacey, Joe Manganiello, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. And George the Gorilla is the only animal to be played by an actor, Jason Liles, while the other two were created entirely through keyframe animation. The film is of course loosely based on the 1986 classic from Midway Games and has some pretty great references to the arcade favorite, like when George eats a person that he pulls out of a building he punched, and Malin Akerman's character being devoured while wearing a red dress. Warner Brothers acquired the film adaptation rights to the game as part of their acquisition of Midway Games in 2009 for $33 million. And I guess it was worth it because the film grossed over $428 million worldwide against an overall budget of $260 million. And with a Rotten Tomatometer score of 51%, the consensus from critics is that Rampage isn't as fun as its source material, but the movie's sheer button-mashing abandon might satisfy audiences in the mood for a brainless blockbuster. Tomb Raider 2018. The next film on our list is Tomb Raider, and the answer to your next question is not the other one. This is the 2018 one, not the one with Angelina. The film is based on the 2013 video game of the same name, which, much like the movie, was a reboot of the franchise and rebuilds Lara Croft's origins. It also shares a few minor elements of the sequel game, Rise of the Tomb Raider, from 2015. Alicia Vikander stars as Lara Croft, who heads out on a risky journey to the last known destination of her father, an offbeat adventurer who went missing years earlier. This brings Lara to the fabled tomb on a mythical island where she has to rely on her strong mind, faith, and spirit as she takes on the unknown. Dominic West, Walton Goggins, Daniel Wu, and Kristen Scott Thomas also appear alongside Vikander, who said she was a fan of the video games growing up and wanted to make it as realistic as possible. So she put on 12 pounds of muscle and did a bunch of her own stunts. That's a badass. Of course, a role like Lara Croft only comes along once. So it's no surprise that every actress under the sun was rumored for the part before Vikander landed it, like Emilia Clarke, Emma Watson, Jennifer Lawrence, Saoirse Ronan, and Elizabeth Olsen, to name just a few. Coincidentally, Tomb Raider grossed $274 million worldwide, the same as Angelina Jolie's 2001 film. Although this time around it reportedly needed to gross at least $275 million to break even. So close.
You messed with the wrong family.
There will eventually be a sequel to this one with Vikander returning, which is a good thing considering she was a bright spot for critics. Like Robert Daniels from 812 Film Reviews, who said that she kills in every segment she's in. And the overall consensus from critics is that Tomb Raider reboots the franchise with a more grounded approach and a star who's clearly more than up to the task, neither of which are well served by an uninspired origin story. Mortal Kombat 2021. Next up on this list, again, is Mortal Kombat, but this time it's the 2021 version. Still based on the video game franchise of the same name, this is a reboot of the film series and was directed by Simon McQuoid in his feature directorial debut. The film follows a washed-up MMA fighter named Cole Young, played by Louis Tan, who is unaware that he has a hidden lineage and also has no idea why an assassin named Sub-Zero is currently hunting him. So in an effort to protect his family, Cole tracks down Sonya Blade, played by Jessica McNamee, and ends up at the Temple of Lord Raiden, the protector of the Earth Realm. There, he trains with warriors like the mercenary Kano, played by Josh Lawson, as they prepare for a battle against the enemies of the Outworld with the universe on the line. No big deal. Also in the cast is Max Wang, a former member of the Jackie Chan stunt team, who would pitch ideas on set to help make the film's fight choreography even better. It was a long time coming for this reboot after Mortal Kombat Annihilation. the 97 sequel to the original film, which I can't stress enough you should not watch. It was such a critical and commercial failure, but it led to nearly 2 decades of what the industry loves to call development hell before things finally got going with this reboot. It was finally released in April of 2021, both in theaters and streaming on HBO Max, ultimately grossing $83 million at the worldwide box office against a $55 million budget and becoming HBO Max's most successful film to date at the time. But the graphic violence, which when translated from a video game to real life can be a bit more intense, led to an initial NC-17 rating. So several gory fight scenes were edited down to fit under an R rating, whereas the 95 version was coming in rated R and edited down to land a PG-13 rating. A sequel is officially in the works for this one, which is good news for audiences who loved it. And the consensus from critics is that it's largely for fans of the source material, but far from fatally flawed, Mortal Kombat revives the franchise in appropriately violent fashion. Sonic the Hedgehog.
This is the island where I'm from. It had everything. Sandy beaches, cascading waterfalls, public access to loop-de-loops. And I never had to catch a school bus because I could run across the entire island in less than 2 seconds. Also, there was no school. I know, pretty sweet island, right?
Speeding its way onto this list as the first fresh film we've seen today is 2020's Sonic the Hedgehog. This adaptation was directed by Jeff Fowler in his directorial debut and stars Ben Schwartz as the voice of Sonic. In it, the speedy blue hedgehog teams up with a local town sheriff, played by James Marsden, as they race across the globe to try and stop the mad scientist Dr. Robotnik, played by Jim Carrey, who wants to use Sonic's superpowers to conquer the Earth. Development for a Sonic film began not long after the video game first graced the Sega Genesis in 1991. It was in the hands of Sony at one point before Paramount Pictures acquired it in 2017. But when the first original trailer for this movie was finally released in April of 2019, the backlash over the way the character looked was swift and loud. People weren't really into Sonic's teeth, or his legs, or his head size. But for the first time in the history of anything ever, the powers that be were actually hearing what the fans were saying, and Fowler announced that the changes would be made as the release date was pushed to Valentine's Day 2020. Because nothing says romance and date night like a Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
This is my power, and I'm not using it to run away anymore. I'm using it to protect my friends.
But I suppose the full-on makeover and delay was worth it because Sonic set the record for the biggest opening weekend for a video game film in North America, eventually hauling in almost $320 million as the 6th highest grossing film of 2020. Plus, like I mentioned, critics were finally feeling a video game movie, like Breakfast All Day's Christy Lemire, who said, if you want a light, fun escape, this is it. And the overall critics' consensus is that, fittingly fleet and frequently fun, Sonic the Hedgehog is a video game-inspired adventure the whole family can enjoy, and a fine excuse for Jim Carrey to tap into the manic energy that launched his career. Pokemon Detective Pikachu.
Listen up. We got ways to make you talk. Or mine.
Yeah.
So tell us what we want to know. Why was Harry Goodman here, and what did it have to do with the R? Pipe. Yes. Okay. I can. Shoving. Pushing. My problem is that I push people away and then hate them for leaving.
He's saying you can shove it.
What? I can shove it? Okay, that's it. No, we're switching roles. I'm bad cop. You're good cop.
Taking a peek at the next movie on the list will bring us to 2019 with Pokemon Detective Pikachu. The film is based on the Pokemon franchise and is a loose adaptation of the 2016 video game Detective Pikachu. It was directed by Rob Letterman, known for movies like Gulliver's Travels and Goosebumps. Ryan Reynolds stars as the voice and facial motion capture of Detective Pikachu, who joins forces with a 21-year-old named Tim, played by Justice Smith, the only human who can talk with Pikachu and the son of an ace detective. After Tim's father goes missing, the pair team up to unravel the mystery. Among those considered for the, coveted role of Pikachu were Danny DeVito, Dwayne Johnson, Mark Wahlberg, and Hugh Jackman before Ryan Reynolds got the call and the trading card. And bringing Pikachu to life so vivid and yellow was the same team behind films like The Jungle Book, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and The Lion King. Not a bad resume. This marked the first ever live-action Pokemon film and the first live-action film based on a Nintendo property since Super Mario Bros. In 1993. If you're waiting for that movie to pop up on our list, don't hold your breath.
I got a plan! What? That's not gonna work! Magikarp is the worst! Magikarp can evolve into Gyarados. All it needs is a little kick! Water in the hole!
In my head, I saw that differently.
And this one was definitely an improvement in the box office department, grossing $433 million worldwide, becoming the second highest grossing video game movie ever after 2016's Warcraft, which was also produced by Legendary Pictures. And with a fresh score of 68% on the Tomatometer, the consensus from critics is that Pokemon Detective Pikachu may not take its wonderfully bizarre premise as far as it could have, but this offbeat adaptation should catch most, if not all, of the franchise's fans. The Angry Birds Movie 2.
Fire another ice ball!
We can't do that, Zeta?
Wait.
You're torturing the engineer.
Hello? My limbs are beginning to numb.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Look up, it's a drone, it's a plane. Nope, it's 2019's Angry Birds Movie 2. The film is based on Rovio Entertainment's Angry Birds video game series, which first sprung onto our phones in 2009. This is the sequel to the Angry Birds movie from 2016, which stars Jason Sudeikis, Josh Gad, Danny McBride, Maya Rudolph, Tony Hale, Bill Hader, and Peter Dinklage. And with Leslie Jones, Tiffany Haddish, Awkwafina, Sterling K. Brown, and JoJo Siwa joining in on the fun this time around, the hijinks were aplenty. It picks up 3 years after the events of the first film, when some aggressive birds from an ice-covered island are threatening to destroy the fowl and swine way of life. So the birds and pigs agree to put aside their differences and unite to fight the common threat. They assemble their best and brightest from both sides to figure out a way to infiltrate the island and save the day. Oddly enough, 2019 was a crazy busy year for animated sequels, with Frozen 2, which also features Josh Gad and Sterling K. Brown, along with the Lego Movie 2, the second part, and The Secret Life of Pets 2, both of which include Tiffany Haddish.
That's my dad?
I have a daughter?
Yes, you do. And I raised her all by myself in this icy wasteland. But now, I'm gonna be sipping pina coladas on those warm, tropical islands like I deserve to!
And this particular animated sequel did okay at the box office, with nearly $153 million worldwide, which is less than the first film, but it received much more favorable reviews with critics and fans, and is considered an improvement, which is a rarity for any sequel. And speaking of critics, the AP's Jocelyn Novak said that this film reminds us that finding a formula to appeal to both kids and parents for 90-odd minutes is not rocket science. With an overall consensus from critics that says, like its non-aerodynamic title characters, The Angry Birds Movie 2 takes improbable yet delightfully entertaining flight, landing humorous hits along the way. Werewolves Within.
Out of curiosity, who is packing?
I am, yes sir, America.
Who else is packing, dog?
Wow.
I have Dave's hunting rifle, if that would be helpful.
Oh, gosh, I almost forgot. I got, it's teensy, it's just a little, it's first gun.
Excuse you. Okay.
And finally, howling its way to the top spot on this list of the highest rated video game movies is 2021's certified fresh Werewolves Within. This comedy horror film is based on the multiplayer VR game of the same name from Red Storm Entertainment for Oculus Rift, HTC Vive, and the PlayStation VR. The film stars Sam Richardson as a forest ranger named Finn, and Milana Vaintrub was a postal worker named Cecily. Together, they try to keep the peace in a town that is trapped together in a snowstorm while also fighting over a proposed pipeline, and they have to figure out the truth behind a mysterious creature that is terrorizing the community. It's been a hard day's night. The film was directed by Josh Rubin in just his second feature-length film, with a screenplay written by Mishna Wolf, a humorist and best-selling author, in her first and only film writing credit. And together, they put out what is the highest-rated film based on a video game on both Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic as of March 2022. And while the video game is set in a medieval village and the film is set in the modern day, Rubin was still able to have fun with the wardrobe, which, as he said, was deliberately exaggerated in the hope that someday someone may want to dress up as these characters for Halloween, or maybe a comic book convention.
I'm afraid I can't do that, Ranger Wheeler. You could be one of them.
What is it?
One of what? A what?
Lycanthrope.
A werewolf.
This movie also has a couple of fun nods to some fellow Ubisoft video games, including Wayne Duvall's character using a hidden blade that's mounted on his wrist, one that appears in several Assassin's Creed games. And Sarah Burns' character Gwen wearing a Short Bows jersey, which is the fictional hockey team featured in the game The Division. Just a few of the many things that made this movie a hit with both fans and movie reviewers, with a consensus from critics that Werewolves Within is the rare horror comedy that offers equal helpings of either genre and adds up to a whole lot of fun in the bargain. And there you have it, 10 glorious levels of the highest rated video game movies. Thanks for checking out our list, and I'm sorry if we've made you excited for both watching these movies and then playing these games, or the reverse order. Just practice good time management, it's gonna be okay. Thanks for checking out RT Essentials. I'm Mark Ellis. And remember, that's down, down, left, right, A, B, select. The spread is my fit. Forget it. I'm gonna turn off the console and just play Game Boy.